We've been told that the killing in Iran is stopping, and it's stopped, and it's stopping. And there's no plan for executions.
We are back with the big deal. Human rights groups say that in Iran, hundreds, perhaps thousands of protesters have died in the largest threat to the Islamic regime in years. With the government blocking the internet, reliable information is scarce. Here's a look at how we got here. Tens of thousands of people on the streets, including this protester in Tehran, whose defiance has gone viral. Another viral image, body bag, showing the consequences of challenging the regime. There have been counter-protests too, backing Iran's theocracy. Mixed with limited information, it adds up to a confusing picture. But observers say nearly 50 years after the 1979 Iranian Revolution, change appears to be coming.
It is different and it feels different because for the first time, many observers inside Iran and outside Iran actually can't see what the off-ramp for this situation is.
This moment can be traced to 1953. The democratically elected prime minister was deposed with help from U.S. and British intelligence. He had nationalized Iran's oil. The Western-backed Reza Shah Pahlavi was put back in charge. Anger at Western imperialism became an explosive backdrop among his subjects. In the late 1970s, rage at the Shah boiled into massive demonstrations. Then, too, the regime opened fire, catalyzing more protests.
Protesters, unarmed protesters, went into the streets, and the army, the Shah's army, fired upon them.
Thousands were estimated killed then as well. The Shah was deposed in February 1979, replaced with an Islamic republic giving supreme power to the Ayatollah. That November, militants took 52 Americans hostage at the U.S. Embassy. The hostages were released in 1981, the U.S. and Iran settling into decades of hostility. There were attempts at a thaw, including an agreement to curb Tehran's nuclear plans during the Obama administration.
The Islamic Republic of Iran will not develop a nuclear weapon.
But amid Iranian support for U.S.-designated terrorist groups, President Donald Trump ended it during his first term. Then, the U.S. joined Israel last June in bombing Iranian nuclear facilities. That fallout, combined with high inflation and the currency's collapse, leads to today, people with different concerns are taking to the streets.
So many people feel that they have no other option but to go out and perhaps die, if not get arrested, or have their children die, or children get arrested, but they feel there's just nothing left for them to do but to go out into the streets and protest.
Any U.S. intervention carries risks. The regime has multiple centers of power. In all, it's dangerously unclear what could come next. Joining me now with more about all of this is Ali Kadivar, an associate professor of sociology and international studies at Boston College with a focus on the Middle East. He's also currently a fellow at Harvard University's Radcliffe Institute. Professor, thanks so much for being here. It seems we're in somewhat of a holding pattern. These protests, at least has been reported, have abated. The Trump administration holding off strikes, at least for now. Earlier this week, Iran observers, those observing these protests, said that we won't go back to where we were before. Is that your sense now? Where are we when it comes to these protests and the desire to overthrow this regime?
Thank you for having me. Yes, I think we are also going to a new phase, at least. And that phase, unfortunately, is a dark, very repressive phase. The protests that we observed on Thursday, at least, reached a very high level of participation that previous protests of the type since 2009 had not reached. Since then, the government has used deadly violence based on verified accounts by human rights organizations. We know thousands of people, more than 2,000 or 3,000, have been killed. That's a very large number. I have worked on the Iranian Revolution of 1979. In 1 year, the regime of Shah killed 2,400 people. Now we have similar number for a period of about 2 weeks. And this, both the level of anti-regime participation and the regime violence resembles what we observed in the few years after the Iranian revolutions in early 1980s. 80s when both the opponents of the regime mobilized and also used violence, and the regime responded very violently.
President Trump said only a few days ago that help is on the way to the Iranian people. For those who were looking for the regime to collapse, and obviously there are people on the other side as well, how are those people, the anti-regime protesters who have been killed en masse, as you said, how are they responding?
I think some are disappointed, some still cannot believe, and they think help is coming. But overall, it seems that this regime change activist strategy has not been in order. They have brought people to the streets, and we have observed deadly violence by government, internet shutdown. This was not surprising. The government had done something like this in 2019. But we see that the opposition leaders who claim to be opposition leaders have no plans whatsoever and are trying to bring international intervention. And it is very unclear how the international intervention is going to improve the situation. It just can bring more escalation and more people dead.
The president's top envoy, Steve Witkoff, says that he wants diplomacy. The Trump administration wants a definitive end to Iran's nuclear program and end to its support for U.S.-designated terrorist groups like Hezbollah. Would that even work under that regime, or is this regime based upon those two things or similar things?
I think if they can provide an off-ramp for the regime and some compromise, which, I mean, there was a nuclear deal between Iran and the US and European countries and Russia and China before. So there was a compromise, there was a deal in place. But Trump withdrew from that deal and has not been offering the Iranian government any options. That's why we have been observing a deadlock. I think Iranian regime probably can compromise on anything. It has compromised on women's hijab. That was considered a red line. I don't think it's impossible for them, but it's a matter of national prestige for them. And I think the Trump administration is not giving them any options, making it very difficult for Iranian government to enter negotiations or have a deal.
Thank you so much, Professor Ali Kadivar.
Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage, and click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.